Hi, good evening. How you guys doing? Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm really happy. My friend Brandon McDaniel's here with us from the LA Dodgers. He's in charge of player performance. So any of those low batting averages or misplaced pitches, it's his fault. He's responsible. He's going to get it fixed. Thanks for coming, buddy.
Thanks for having me. Really appreciate it. And looking forward to it.
Yeah, cool. And so we run into each other in the clubhouse during the season and talk different back injuries and rehab and all sorts of different things. And why don't you give us a little bit of an intro about how you got into baseball and how you got into sports performance and strength and conditioning and everything else?
Sure, yeah. Played baseball growing up as a kid. Played a lot of sports. Played football. Played basketball. Ran track more like through the shot and disc. I was a little too big to be running around a track. Had a love for baseball. Went on to college to continue my career with that. And a few years in, realized that college was probably going to be about it, and wanted to find a way to get into pro ball and continue down this path of baseball. And so from there, applied I think for like 30 internships with major league teams, and was very fortunate that the Pittsburgh Pirates called back and took like an unpaid college internship, doing weight room work, catching bullpens, throwing batting practice every day in Bradenton, Florida for no money. And from there, it kind of took off. And done numerous things since. Worked in the military a little bit. Obviously now working for the Dodgers, and have been here the past 8 seasons, and love every minute of it.
Nice. How was it, talking about the military, how was it different taking care of people in the military versus baseball players?
Yeah, so there's just a lot of skills, obviously, that someone in the military needs, and there's just different. I worked in the Army, but there's different branches that we had to work with the Navy or Marines or whatever, and just specific jobs that maybe they had to carry out. And the first thing that I noticed was carrying a rucksack around 70 pounds, 100 pounds on your back isn't necessarily the easiest thing in the world to do. And then on top of that, there's just a lot of like psychology that goes into to the military, where guys will grind it out, and guys and gals will grind it out and work hard, and they have a goal that they're trying to accomplish, and they will wear themselves down more in the professional sports, where you get stuck on the skill more than you do maybe the strength and conditioning, where we have to get those guys into the weight room and work with them a little bit more.
That's great. And part of the thing that I've been impressed about with the Dodgers and Andrew Friedman and the whole staff and the whole team that's in management and the training staff is the real commitment to the long haul. Like, from my perspective, if I say, hey, we should take 4 to 6 weeks off, it's kind of like, okay, sounds good. There's not a lot of pressure to, let's rush back in this. This is kind of a big picture, scheme of things. And I guess just to some degree, is the military have a similar big picture, or is it more kind of short term? I guess it depends on if there's a war going on.
Well, I mean, I don't know necessarily regarding that, but in the military, there's obviously there's a ton of soldiers, but I think it comes down to the individual person and how much information they're willing to give up, to whoever they're working for, or whoever their commander is.
Yeah, right.
Because these people will grind through it to do whatever they can to protect us. And whereas Andrew's helped build our system on depth. And we have plenty of people kind of waiting. So if we need to take an extra week, we have somebody to kind of plug and play and fill that position in for the time being.
Yeah, that makes a huge difference, doesn't it? So tell us about the Dodgers workout program, and you're setting it up. You said you started OTAs yesterday. You're already back in the grind yesterday.
Yeah, we joked around and called it OTAs like we're the NFL, but. Right. We had 12 guys at the stadium today. Not all major league players, but a lot of minor league prospects as well, and some major league guys. And we're in contact with the guys at home, where they live in the off season, to make sure that they're doing the things that they need to do to prepare for the 2020 season. So we had a 3-week break, one that we didn't really want to have, but we took it, and now November 4th, it seemed like we're ready to ramp it back up.
And how much do you make a general program for the whole team and every player on the team versus is it all individual and position specific and player specific?
Yeah, we kind of try to develop an athletic development model, and we have kids that are 16 years old in the Dominican Republic, and we had 39-year-old Rich Hill this year. And so each one of the programs, when you get to the big league level, there's a story that has been told throughout their career, of whether it's their previous injury history or the things that they've done that have made them really successful up to that point. So each one of those workouts is tailored to them, probably because they're going to tell us what they've been doing, and we're going to make sure that we put them in a position to be successful. But when you get an 18-year-old kid out of high school, we have them in general prep. We're working on a certain subset of skills of mobility, stability, strength, power, endurance for each one of these guys. And I think that if you start at that 18-year-old mark, like the pitchers and the position players look very, very similar from the weight room activity. But as you move down the line and get closer and closer to your peak years of 26 to 32, those programs start to get individualized.
What about cardio? Does every player on the team do cardio, or are there a few that just don't even need it, don't believe in it, don't even really need it?
Yeah, I think from a cardio standpoint, I think everybody thinks of running. And so the answer to that is not everybody runs. And we now know that running might not be the healthiest thing for some guys. And you look at a pitcher, they don't have to run in a game. Our position players need to run. And so we maybe don't take them out for like 15 or 20-minute runs or mile runs or anything like that, but we need to be able to sprint because that's a task they have to complete, and that's the tissue tolerance that they have to have built up. But from a cardiovascular standpoint, we want to make sure our oxidative system, our cardio system is really strong. We call it our basement. We call it our platform that we build off of. And if that's very strong, we have the ability to recover quicker, and we have, within the session and also like session to session, game to game, day to day, year to year even.
What's the average as far as what's the typical amount of cardio that a player will do? Do they do 30 minutes of run on the treadmill or elliptical? Is that about a month? Or the people? What's the average?
Yeah, no, I think for the most part, you'll see guys every morning come in like 10 minutes and do some type of like cardiovascular warm up, whether it's run a mile real quick on the treadmill at a low intensity, that'll probably like trip up a bunch of people that I even said run a mile, but some guys will just get on there because it's something they're thinking about. They get on the elliptical for 10 minutes, just something to get them a sweat. And then after that, we're trying to tap into different systems. So we might run 20 seconds as hard as we can and walk 40 seconds, as slow as we can to try to recover, and do that for anywhere from 8 to 20 bouts because we know we're building up that oxidative system while we're building up kind of that glycolytic or even ATP system at the same time. So I'd say no more than, 30 minutes at most for some guys, and probably no little than 10.
Yeah, I gotcha. Yeah, baseball's a crazy sport because from a fan's perspective, you see like an outfielder stand out there and not get the ball hit to him for 5 innings, but then all of a sudden all hell breaks loose on one play where you're diving, running around, somebody falling on you, people crashing into walls. Yeah. That it's such a, and so how do you prepare for that? How do you train somebody for that?
The first thing we tell our guys when we take the field, everybody's down on the line, warming up before the game is like, you got to be ready to hit a triple on the first play.
Right.
Because if you're not ready to do that, you're not ready to play this game. Or if we're on defense first, like, hey, you're playing center field, you got to be ready to go catch the baseball. Because those are the things that we can control, and we want to make sure that our guys are ready to do. But at the same time, we see a lot of guys that tweak something or don't feel right when they hit a double, and then the next pitch they got to score from second base. So, like, we want to have the ability to run as hard as we can, take 10 seconds off, and get back at it.
Yeah, it's really a fascinating sport from that what relative inactivity or boredom to complete chaos, and even in the season, the long grinding part of the season. That talk a little bit about that, because as a doctor, that's the biggest thing I've been exposed to, is realizing how long and of a grind it is, mental, emotional, physical, everything else. And how are you guys able to plan for that?
The biggest thing that I think that has been developed here is the access to the players in the offseason. Being in LA isn't a bad thing. So guys want to come here and they want to train with us and they want to work with us. Yeah. So what we develop from November 4th until February 15th for the major league guys, or March 1st for the minor league guys, that's kind of our reserve. That's kind of our bank account. And so we can build that up so when we get into season, we can pace ourselves knowing that we have 162 games. It's the guys that maybe have an injury going into the offseason or just can't train normally throughout, the months of November, December, January, that we're playing from behind from the get-go. Yeah. And so it's tough to build up to play a sport and also try to build like fitness at the same time. And that's where we have to be really cautious and make sure that we're not trying to win the World Series on the first day of spring training.
Right. And tell us a bit about the app that you guys have and how it tracks everything it tracks as far as their diet, their mental status, how much sleep they got, and
we've been very fortunate to work with a company called Conduct for a long time now, and we have wellness apps that get sent out to the players, letting us know how they sleep and what their hydration's like, and we're not so much concerned with the scores as much as just that daily reminder to the players that all of these things are factors in your performance. It's not just show up and play anymore, but if you're not sleeping on a regular basis, like, we have some ways to help with that. Or if you are dehydrated, we also have some ways to get water in you more, get electrolytes into you more. But more importantly, there's a story on that app for them as well regarding their strength and conditioning. treatment they might have in the athletic training room, nutrition, we can put meal plans up there, and so that it kind of lives in this one little app for them that they can pop into and know kind of what their daily schedule is going to be when it comes to what they're going to be doing from a training standpoint.
Yeah, that's cool. So, and they have to, what percent check in every day and fill in their scores on a daily basis?
Yeah, I mean, at the major league level, like we're using it more as awareness, but in the minor league level, we use that app almost every day because it's helping us monitor them. Because all I'm trying to do is get information to make your program better,
right? And
to make sure that you can go out and perform at a high level. Like I don't care how much you sleep personally.
Yeah, right.
But I don't want to also, if you didn't sleep last night, that's a stressor, and then I try to crush you in the weight room. That's another stressor. Now you're playing from behind.
Yeah. And it's cool how the compliance is built into, if you enter the information into it, well, then you're going to be more compliant and be more aware of it, and maybe not stay out quite as late the night before and everything else.
It's a daily reminder, and we've gotten great buy-in over the years because of those off-season programs. When we're not around our players, they can see that app. And it's our kind of way of checking in and saying, hey, I didn't see the check mark today. Did you not do the exercise? I don't know what it was.
Right.
Hey, let's sit down and talk about it.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing on our app, the Back Doctor. One of the biggest things I do, we have the score on there. It tells you your average score. And I have kids asking me all the time, they got a stress fracture, and some 15-year-old kid is like, I want to play a big game. I got to play this week, and can I play? I said, well, what level are you doing of the program?
Yeah.
And if they go, well, I don't know. I'm like, well, no, then you can't play.
Right.
You haven't bought in. If you don't even know the freaking level, the answer is no. You just made my job easy.
No, and that's funny because we obviously have incorporated a lot of your exercises into our daily prep or into our core program, and obviously some of the players that we've worked with, that's kind of our way of communicating. Like, you get to level 3, we'll start having a conversation.
Yeah, right, exactly. Keep it short and sweet.
Yeah.
Level 3, if not,
you
keep heading it.
Exactly.
Yeah, nice. And related to squatting and deadlifting, 50% of all the injuries I see in athletes, every level is from deadlifting and squatting. Everybody does it to get their strength in their butt and their legs. And talk to us about that, how that's one of the biggest things you do is help manage that. And
First of all, when I worked in the military, the number one reason why I was hired was to eliminate the fact that there was more injuries in the weight room than there was in combat at the time. And to me, that's insane. Like, number one rule is to keep people safe in the weight room. And so the exercises that give you the most bang for your buck, squats, deadlifts, hang cleans, things like that, are all awesome.
Yeah.
But if it's giving you that big of a stimulus, it's also putting you at that big of a risk. And I don't believe in canning any exercises. I think everybody should deadlift to some form, and I think they should squat to some form. Now, does that mean a max back squat or a max deadlift? Absolutely not. So we look at the movement first. So if you squat really clean and you deadlift really clean, like you have good hip hinge, you have good ankle dorsiflexion, you have good like T-spine stability, mobility in that area, we're going to start to load you up progressively.
Yeah.
But let's say that you have no hip flexion and we ask you to deadlift. Well, I know that for you to get down on the ground, you're not going to be able to get there through your hips. You're probably going to go through your lumbar spine. So we have some blocks that we put on the side for the guys, and we build them up because we know there's some good things out of getting that stimulus of picking up heavy stuff. We just don't want them to do it at that range of motion that they're maybe doing that from before. And the same thing from a squat, like putting a barbell on your back is, again, like at 15 it was easy, at 16 it was easy. By the time I was 30, it wasn't so easy anymore. And so now looking at different variations of a kettlebell or a barbell on front squat or sandbags or anything we can, I'm still squatting and I'm still getting that stimulus. And so what if I'm maybe not driving 400 pounds up on my back?
Right. So it sounds like for anybody out there who has kids in sports or weightlifting on their own to stay fit and toned, just being very conscientious to make sure that their mechanics are proper, and potentially hiring somebody, a physical therapist, a trained professional, to make sure their mechanics are proper is probably worth the money invested.
The movement screen, having somebody, a specialist, give you a movement screen, I think it's imperative for life, not just for fitness or for strength and conditioning. And understanding how your ankles move could tell you what kind of shoes you should buy. And understanding how your hips can move, tell you how to drive your car, and tell you what positions to sit in or how long. And so hiring somebody like that to have those basic principles down, now I can start adding fitness on top of that. And people that want to do a lot of cardio or people that want to lift a lot of weights, I think whatever you like, whatever you want to do, you should be able to do. There's a way around that, and we can make sure that we put you in a position to be successful with that.
What other stuff do you give the players tips on? Diet, relaxation. What about diet? You said your wife's a dietitian?
My wife's a dietitian, yeah.
Yeah.
So I was a fat kid growing up. I graduated high school 275 pounds. So,
wow, solid.
Yeah, I was thought I was going to
playing baseball.
Well, I thought I was going to play football too,
Yeah.
so I kept that on, and
Right.
it didn't go over well when I showed up to my freshman year of college to catch.
Yeah.
So took that off pretty quick. But and so my wife and I have always had a lot of conversations, obviously around that. She's worked with professional athletes for a long time now, and has helped me tremendously. Just the understanding of the physiological side of it. So from a diet standpoint, we're looking to, number one, fuel for performance, and so we want to make sure that our athletes have the right amount of energy that they need from 7 o'clock until 10:30, 11 o'clock every night. And
it's probably key to help them concentrate, right? Maintain some ATP in the brain so they can stay focused.
You got low blood sugar. It's really hard for you to react to a 92-mile-an-hour slider on just off the dish. So there's that part of it. And then for me, the big thing for athletes and the big thing even for the general public is controlling inflammation. And so there's a lot of these diets out there that people would probably consider fad diets, whether it's keto diets or intermittent fasting, and I personally, much like weightlifting, I think that they all work. And getting into understanding that, like, what, intermittent fasting is really good, but I have blood sugar problems, and the longer I go without eating, my blood sugar drops really low. Like, maybe that's not maybe that's not the diet for me. And so trying to educate our players on that standpoint, because I think then nutrition affects, like I said, the inflammation. Inflammation is pain, so if we can get that out, that's really good. But it also affects sleep. And for me, sleep is the best supplement that you can have. And we talk about all these pills that we give our guys, whether it's multivitamins, fish oils, or whatever it might be. But if you can sleep, that really recharges your system and really is the best multivitamin we can give anybody. But if my nutrition's off, it's really hard for my brain to relax. It's really, really hard for my body to kind of go in that parasympathetic state to relax and get deep sleep.
And some of the anti-inflammatory, mediators like gluten and dairy and processed carbs, are those kind of things you're talking about potentially decreasing?
Yeah, and a lot of that has to do with gut health. And I people talk a lot about leaky gut, and I'm not going to try to act like a dietitian here, but I think a lot of it has been made of people going dairy-free or gluten-free or whatever free to take it out of their diet, but they're not fixing their gut. And your gut is a lining and a paste around it, and if that thing gets rotten or it gets eaten through, that's when people start feeling the pain from eating gluten and eating dairy. And so it's kind of twofold: eliminating the foods that potentially are causing those issues, and then a lot of probiotics and a lot of paste that we can build up around their healthy foods, even like sauerkraut. As weird as it sounds, it helps kind of develop that paste around the gut for our guys or anybody you're working with, to make sure none of that's leaking through. Yeah,
cool. And what about, talking about rest, the biggest thing I've gotten into is these 15 to 30-minute breaks where either you meditate or listen to hypnosis download and lose consciousness for a moment and then come back, especially on airplanes. All the traveling you guys and the time changes. Do you guys have any of those on your apps? Do you guys have any meditations?
Yeah, Neil Ramp, our head athletic trainer, does an amazing job of giving guys like breathing apps, and they start a lot of the programs in the training room with like breathing exercises. So we're trying to find sympathetic or central nervous system balance. And the world that we live in is very sympathetic. It's a lot of cell phones. In LA, it's a lot of driving and traffic.
Constant stimulation all the time.
Yeah, and so we've went a lot to the the blue blocking glasses to try to tone out some of the light from guys, whether it's real or not. It again is one of those things that makes guys conscientious of what's going on, or changing their iPhones to that night setting so they're not just looking at blue light all the time. We hand out sleep masks all the time. We hand out a lot of magnesium, which helps kind of chill the body out a little bit. So when we're not playing, we're almost doing everything we can after the game to bring guys back down. Glutamine is a really important supplement that we hand out post-game. Change the lighting in the room. Before the game, it might be really bright. After the game, kind of want that like dark bar feeling, that dark den feeling. So, and we feel like if we can do that, we're at least giving them a runway to maybe go into some rest, recovery, and hopefully deep sleep.
Yeah, the old days of baseball were crazy, weren't they? I mean, literally, they would play all day, play till 10, and then go to the bar, and drink beer and have the steak at the local bar.
Yeah,
and that was every night.
Yeah, I'm sure it was absolutely. I'm sure it was awesome if you were a guy that
if your career, if you didn't mind your career only lasting 3 to 4 years, then it was great. And then,
and I bet there were some guys that did it that way that played a long time that are looking at me saying, "You're crazy right now. What are you doing?" I did just fine. And
right.
Any
of the old timers tell you that?
Oh yeah. I mean, I get in there, start talking about gluten and dairy, and they're going, "What?" And I had a cow every night. I drank milk right out of the cow or whatever. Like, it's a different world now, and those cows aren't the same. They're not manufactured the same way anymore.
True. Those cows are pumped with hormones and everything else.
Right.
Cool. So let's talk about the Dodgers, man. Yeah. What happened? What happened? I say what happened, of course. What went wrong, of course, 106 wins and, last game, or extra innings, but what do you think we could do to improve the team, get ready for next year?
Yeah, I mean, I always leave those decisions up to
come on,
to our bosses.
No, it's a free for all. This is nobody watches this show. You can tell us this thing.
No, we got beat by obviously the eventual World Series champions, which has happened the last 3 years in a row, which is 4 years in a row actually, which is crazy, and it just shows you. How much the playoffs are a crapshoot. We ran into a buzzsaw of a team that played really well, and we didn't get the job done, I guess is the way it is. But the one thing that I can say about all of our guys and about our squad is, like, it's really cool to see how we've rebounded already, that we're less than a month out, and guys are already chomping at the bit, talking about training and talking about throwing programs and when they should start hitting. Like, I think this one will not sit well a long time for our squad, and they will do the things that they need to do this off season and spring training to prepare. And I think if we said we're going to win another 106 games next year, everybody would be on board for that. It's tough to rebound after winning that many games and not making it deep, but I feel really good about where we're at. We're young. We have a really good nucleus, and we have smart people running our organization.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, it's a great organization, and it's like just keep plugging along and filling it in, and don't get too caught up in the past and what's next, and let's move on and do the best we can. And it's a great group of people.
Yeah, and there's no point of talking about the past unless there's something we can learn from it. And I'm sure that there's conversations that are being had of how we can go in better prepared, for the long haul of a season. But it's 2 seasons. It's getting through that first 162, which is no small feat, and we should be very proud of breaking the franchise record for the wins that we did last year. And then how can we set ourselves up for that second season, which is the playoffs?
Yeah, totally. That was great. Well, thanks for coming, man.
Yeah,
I appreciate it. Yeah, it just took your night away from this, and your wife. You guys are expecting another baby soon.
Yeah, another boy any day now.
Yeah, cool. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. All right, buddy.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, everybody.